There are 9 new NFL head coaches. I want to go through each one and share my early impressions for how I feel about them. Number 1, the Minnesota Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell to be their next head coach. He was the Rams offensive coordinator this past year. He won a Super Bowl with the Rams. I really like this hire because the Vikings should be scoring a ton of points. They've got a great receiving core. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, a star running back, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins at quarterback. There's a lot of offensive talent in Miami. I think that's the stronger side of the football. And Mike Zimmer, their former head coach, was an old school defensive guy. And I felt like Mike Zimmer's philosophies as a coach really held back the Vikings offense. And so I'm really hoping Kevin O'Connell can get the most out of Kirk Cousins. I still don't think Kirk Cousins has reached his potential yet. And so I'm very, very excited for Kevin O'Connell. And I really want to see him build a high-powered offense in Minnesota. Number 2, Sean Payton abruptly stepped down as a Saints head coach, kind of leaving them with their hands in their pockets, realizing, oh my gosh, now we don't have a head coach for next year. So they elevated their defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, to head coach. Now, I love Dennis Allen, and I feel kind of bad for him because I wish that he'd been promoted to a head coach in a better situation, because I think with a good team, he actually could win. If he had a quarterback, he had a good offense, he had a good coordinator on offense, and could build a good defense. I really believe Dennis Allen with a good football team could win a lot of games. He's motivating. People like him. The players love him. He's built a good defense in New Orleans. He was once the head coach He was once the head coach in Oakland with the Raiders a long time ago. He didn't do very well there, but I think he's a different guy now than he was back then. And I just think that I go back to, I think with a good team, Dennis Allen, I believe, could win. Unfortunately, the Saints are a rebuilding mess. No quarterback, salary cap problems. I believe in Dennis Allen. I just wish he had a different opportunity to be a head coach again. Number 3, the Miami Dolphins have hired Mike McDaniel to be their new head coach. He was the 49ers offensive coordinator last year. He's being brought in to work with Tua, their young quarterback, and develop him. That is the sole purpose for him being there. They want a guy to develop Tua, and I'm hyped because I love this guy. The more I learn about him, the more I read about him and watch him in interviews, the more I just go, man, Mike McDaniel seems like a fun dude to play for who loves the game, and I'm kind of jealous because he seems like the kind of guy that I would want to play for. Like really, really a lot of energy and a lot of personality. And I'm very excited for Tua because I think Tua is going to have a lot of fun working with him. And by the way, Mike McDaniel's committed to Tua. He has a plan and believes he can build around Tua. And I mean, I'm a very biased Tua fan. I love Tua Tagovailoa, love his family, love his approach, love him as a person. I'm rooting for him. And I think this is exactly what Tua needs in order for him to be successful in the NFL. And frankly, I'm hoping that the way that Mike McDaniel and Tua connect can be similar to the way that Sean Payton and Drew Brees once connected in 2006 with the New Orleans Saints. Also on top of Mike McDaniel coming from San Francisco, he's also bringing with him Wes Welker to be his receivers coach for the Dolphins. He was the 49ers receiving coach last year. I think it's going to be awesome. Wes Welker is a legend. He was a great receiver in the NFL for the Patriots, Broncos. He also actually played for the Miami Dolphins. And I think that Wes Welker is going to be a really, really good mentor for a guy like Jalen Waddle, who's a young receiver who I feel very excited for. So to have Wes Welker working with Jalen Waddle just gets me going like, oh my goodness, that's going to be a really, really good match in Miami. The Chicago Bears hired Matt Eberflus to be their new head coach. And I really like Matt Eberflus. He seems like a guy that players love. He's a good coach, a leader of men. Last year as a defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. My main concern when the Bears hired Matt Eberflus was, okay, that's great, but he's a defensive coach. Who's going to work with their young quarterback, Justin Fields? And that will be Luke Getsy, the new offensive coordinator. He's been the Packers quarterback coach since 2019. He's coming to Chicago to be the offensive coordinator. He played quarterback in Pittsburgh, by the way, at University of Pittsburgh, H2P, and he had a brief stint as an NFL quarterback. On top of bringing in Luke Getsy, the Bears' new quarterback coach is Andrew Janico. Andrew Janico was also once a backup at Pittsburgh. They connected. Andrew Janico and Luke Getsy connected at Pittsburgh a long time ago. They have ties from college, and last year, Andrew Janico was the Minnesota Vikings quarterback coach. So he's coming from Minnesota to Chicago to be a quarterback coach, and I don't know, man. Again, Matt Eberflus, I love him. Seems like a good leader, a kind of guy who can rally his players. People love him. But the reality is that the key to winning in Chicago is that Luke Getsy and Andrew Janico need to develop the young quarterback, Justin Fields. And if Matt Eberflus is going to work in Chicago, they have to do a really good job. Although I'm hopeful because I think they've got a good plan to work with the quarterback, and they've got a lot of talented defensive players that Matt Eberflus can develop. I mean, Khalil Mack and Matt Eberflus gets me really excited. So I actually feel pretty good about Chicago. I wish they'd hired an offensive coach, but I think their plan for their quarterback is actually pretty good, and I'm excited and hopeful they can develop their young quarterback, Justin Fields. The Raiders hired Josh McDaniels to be their new head coach. He spent a grand total of 13 years in New England alongside Bill Belichick. He had a 3-year run and a 10-year run as the offensive coordinator in New England. I'm really excited because I think that Josh McDaniels' system really fits well with the quarterback in Vegas, Derek Carr. Here's my concern, though. Josh McDaniels cannot copy Bill Belichick. He has to find his own unique style. Bill Belichick has his style where he's tough, he can be cold. Some people say he's no fun at all to play for. I think Bill Belichick would be great because he is very demanding, but he'll coach you hard and get the most out of you. But a lot of the other coaches from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, guys like Matt Patricia, Bill O'Brien, have failed because they tried to copy Bill's approach. And I think Bill's approach only works for Bill Belichick. You can't steal what he does and copy it. You can't replicate it. So Josh McDaniels needs to have his own style if it's going to work in Vegas. And keep your eye on that. But there is potential, though, because I am very, very much hoping that Josh McDaniel can be great for the quarterback in Vegas, Derek Carr. How about Denver? The Denver Broncos hired give me one second. I had to drink water. The Denver Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett to be their next head coach. I love this guy. There's a great video going around of him coaching and breaking down a play-action pass look, and his energy is awesome. The dude clearly loves football. He's passionate about the quarterback position, and he was the Packers offensive coordinator last year, and Denver's doing everything they can to trade for Aaron Rodgers, the Packers quarterback. But even if they don't get Aaron, Nathaniel Hackett will help Denver address the number one problem they've had for a couple of years now, which is the quarterback position. I think it's a great hire. I like him. Denver has got a lot of good pieces on their football team. Great receivers, good players everywhere. They just need to figure out the quarterback position, and I really believe Nathaniel Hackett is the guy to do that, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or not. I believe him as a coach who can develop a quarterback, and I don't know, man. I'm really interested and excited for the future in Denver. The Jaguars hired Doug Pederson to be their next head coach. I think this is a sneaky good hire. It's a guy who I think a lot of people didn't have Doug Pederson on their radar. He was last seen as Eagles head coach. He got fired in 2020. But remember, he won a Super Bowl in 2017. Like, he's not a terrible coach. And, he won his division twice, got fired after one bad year in Philadelphia. I like Doug. I would not want to be a coach in Philadelphia. I think the ownership there wants a lot of control over the coach, and I wouldn't like it. Doug Pederson played quarterback in the NFL. He's an offensive coach. I think he's a great coach, maybe a perfect coach to develop the young quarterback in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. And he's definitely, the one thing, whether you agree or not, everyone can agree Doug Pederson is definitely a massive, massive upgrade from Urban Meyer last year in Jacksonville. The Houston Texans have hired Lovie Smith to be their next head coach. This one's kind of a head-scratcher because it made firing David Culley make even less sense. Like, I still don't know why they fired David Culley last year after 1 year when I thought he actually overachieved and did better than I thought he would. Lovie Smith is not a terrible coach. He once took the Chicago Bears to a Super Bowl. So, I don't know. Like, he also had a really, really legendary great defense back then. And the Texans do not have a great football team. And Lovie Smith was also a head coach in Tampa. That didn't work. He got fired after 2 years. He coached in college at Illinois. 5 years, never once had a winning record. Like, I don't know that he's the guy who's going to turn around and save the Texans organization. I really think what happened was they fired David Culley hoping to get a top coach, and when they couldn't, they kind of panicked and were like, well, what can we do? Well, hey, Lovie Smith was our defensive coordinator last year. He's been a head coach before. Let's just promote Lovie Smith. I think that's literally what happened. They're like, well, we're not getting any of the names we want. I guess let's go and settle for Lovie Smith. And it's not like they went out and found the guy. They didn't recruit him. They didn't bring him. They just kind of settled, and it feels like Lovie Smith was a backup plan, which makes me feel bad for Lovie Smith because I don't think he was heavily wanted, and I don't think he's being set up to win. So I look at Houston and kind of cringe and go, that's not a great situation, and I don't feel good for him in Houston. Finally, the Giants hired Brian Daboll to be their next head coach. I absolutely love this hire. He was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. He developed Josh Allen from a rookie into the elite quarterback he is today. And similar to Denver, the Giants need help with the quarterback position. Brian Daboll perfectly helps them address the quarterback position. I'm excited for that. I'm hopeful. I'm excited. All the guys in Buffalo loved Brian Daboll, and I think the Giants got it right this time. I feel pretty good about almost every hire. I've got concerns about Josh McDaniel, Matt Eberflus. I feel bad for Lovie Smith. I feel bad for Dennis Allen. Most of the coaches that were hired reflect the direction the NFL is headed, which is the quarterback position is more important than ever in football. And almost every coach that was hired was directly hired to address the quarterback position, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's a good school of thought. I think Kevin O'Connell's got a lot of potential in Minnesota with good players there, and Kevin O'Connell really excites me. Mike McDaniel, I hope he can get the best out of Tua. Let me know, which coaching hire are you most excited for? And do not just say your favorite team because you're a fan. I mean, you can if you want to. I'll take it. But let me know, who do you think is going to be the best out of these 9 guys? I'll make a video like that probably eventually down the road. These are just kind of early impressions as I gather some thoughts and get to know them. But those are the 9 new head coaches in the NFL going into next year.